everybody. Lucas here. Welcome to another episode of ScreenFlow Live. Today we are talking about iOS device recording, iOS devices, and all of the equipment that you need, good practices on exporting and recording and editing and actions and just about everything. We can go high level. We're not going to go super deep into it because we could be here forever, but we're going to do a high level iOS recording devices in ScreenFlow. So stick around. That's today's show. We are back, and I'm just pulling up all of my stuff here. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm pulling up all my live shows so I can monitor the comments. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm watching the comments there. If you guys are watching on Facebook, I'm watching the comments there. So feel free to jump in, ask any questions that you might have. I'm here to do a show, but I'm also here to answer your questions. So I'm going to be monitoring all of those. Be sure to say hello or ask any questions. I also want to say, if you're not following on those places, you can follow on YouTube at ScreenFlowTube. You can follow at Twitter at ScreenFlow. You can find us on, you can talk to our support team as well. If you want to be notified for any email notifications whenever we go live, you can find us at telestream.net/ScreenFlowLive, and you can have all sorts of good questions answered when you come see our show. So, William Vilberg says, love your series, fun to watch. An artist use his tools. If you're talking about me, thank you very much. And then Brandon says, hello. Hello, Brandon. How you doing? Welcome, William and Brandon. And Doug Apple Pryor says, hi. Hi, Apple. And you never got an email reminder, did anybody else? Says Shiroi Hugh. Sorry if I butchered that name. I'm not sure, but I'll check with Deborah Lee to make sure that those emails are going out if you sign up for those emails. So let's get away from me just staring at my computer screen, and let's talk about ScreenFlow and recording iOS devices. Now, I just want a quick disclaimer. This is not something that I do on a regular basis. A lot of the times things that we go over in this show are things that I do all day long, every day. You know, recording myself, recording my screen, adding video actions. Recording iOS devices is not something that I do because we don't really have any products that are really based on mobile devices, so I don't necessarily need to create content using mobile devices. So it's possible some of you have more experience doing this than I do. But first and foremost, what you really need is an iOS device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone, maybe even iPod Touch, I think, if those are still things that people use. But you're going to have to use one with a lightning cable like this. I think, let's see if I can show that to you. This is the new Apple. Back in the day, they had that 16-prong, really wide one. You're not going to be able to use any devices that have that. You're going to have to use these new age devices. If you bought a iDevice in the past 2 or 3 years, though, which I assume most of you are because I feel like they engineer them to die a lot sooner than that, you're going to be just fine. You can use them with any version of ScreenFlow 5 or later. I'm using ScreenFlow 7 today because it's the newest one. Highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. But the first thing that I'm not sure if I can show you. I don't know how to reset it, but when you plug in your phone into your computer using this cable, this lightning cable, for the very first time that you do it, it's going to ask if you want to trust this computer, if you want to trust the device. If you don't say yes, you're going to have issues recording it. You have to make sure that it says yes. I think that if you go into an iDevice, it's possible that in the settings, maybe in general. Yeah, you have to go to settings, general, and then reset. I'm not going to do that now because I'm not really sure what it's going to do to the rest of my phone, but that's how you would make sure that it is being recognized by your computer. So if you want to record an iDevice, make sure that you do that. So let's jump into ScreenFlow. I'm going to just open up a quick document here. and just have that in the background so you don't have to see my nasty nasty's desktop that I should probably clean off. And then I'm going to open up using the helper icon in the top right. I'm going to open up the configure recording box, and that's here. I'm not going to be recording my camera. Actually, you know what? Let's record the camera anyways. Yeah, that should work just fine. And then right here, record iOS device. If I click that, my iPhone, watch what happens when I unplug this. No available iOS device. So it's only going to be a potential option for recording if you've got this plugged in. So when I plug it back in, burner, it now becomes an option that I can click again. So yes, I want to record my iOS device. I only have one right now. It's called iPhone, so I'm going to use that. I'm not going to record any audio. There's no need for that. And I am going to record my color LCD. So I'm just going to start recording here. And I'm going to do something real fast, and then we're going to see what I did. So I'm going to just, open a couple apps, move around different parts of the phone. Let's, oh yes, this is good. All right, so you guys are going to see what I'm doing here in just a second. This is all part of the fun, don't worry. Okay, I'm going to do that, and click that button. And we're good to go. I'm going to close my apps back to the front, and now I'm going to stop my recording. I made a 30-second recording. I'm going to create a new document. There we go. So when you record for the first time, you're going to get an individual piece of media here, down here in the timeline. This is specifically my iPhone. That's this one right here. That's coming in at a different level as the screen recording and my FaceTime camera. And it's massive. Look at it. It's huge. So let's make it a little bit smaller. And there's a couple interesting things that are just some quirks that I want to go over. First of all, my phone is not 100% charged. If you look at it right now, it's 51% charged, not 100%. So that's something that happens very oddly. And then you can see Wednesday, October 4th, 2:36 in the afternoon. But when I'm actually recording, look at the time on this. 9:41 a.m. I think you guys can see that. There is a very strange thing that Apple devices do when you record, is that they'll put 100% battery power, and it will always say 9:41 a.m. I have no idea why. There's no way you can change it. It's just going to happen no matter what you do. I've tried recording this with other things, and it always says 9:41. So if you're recording something in an iDevice that has to show what time it is, you're going to have to go in and edit that out. I don't really know the best way of doing that. I don't see it being a massive problem, but it could be potentially. So keep that in mind. You're always going to have to deal with that. Now let's watch what I did here. Let's make it a little bit smaller because that's just obscenely massive. And we're just going to do a quick 30-second run through. So you can see every touch that was a swipe to the left. I opened up Words with Friends. If you guys haven't played that, I play with my mother-in-law and my dad. That's the only people. There's my dad right there, Henry B. And he just played Signed for 41 points, and I just lost the lead, which is a real good play on his part. So I was thinking there, and I was like, oh, look, I can play this word on the triple letter scored for 15. Perfect. They show me an ad. I double-click, clear both things, and we're back to the home screen. And then I stopped the recording. So I just did a quick 30-second recording of my iPhone. That's the basics for recording your iDevices. You plug it in, make sure that you've allowed it to be recognized by your computer, and then once you've done that, you just record it like anything else, and you interact with your iPhone in any way that you'd want to. I'm going to keep this one. We're going to come back to this one in a minute, but I'm going to create a new recording. Just to do a couple different things, just to show different ways that you can use. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Just to show different ways that you can use this iPhone recording. This time I don't need my camera. Let's record my iPhone. And come on, buddy. Recording error. Sorry, hang on a second, guys. I'm not going to save this. This one I am going to save. Save as my Whoa, I got all sorts of chords going on over here. iPhone test. We'll save that onto the document, onto the desktop, excuse me. And then I'm going to close this. And let me quit ScreenFlow and reopen. One thing I've been running into is that even though I have this brand new MacBook, I create so much content that I often run out of space on my computer, and I hope that's not happening right now. But let's record my iPhone. Okay, good. It worked. So here we go. I'm going to open up this. Let's open up my favorite subreddit about Tottenham Hotspur, which is a football team from England, soccer team. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like that, and I'm going to adjust the scroll angle, not the scroll angle, but the orientation, and then I'll flip it back as well, and go like this, just to see how it all works. Flip it sideways, go like this, and there we go. So that was another thing that I want to record and see how that looks. So let's watch this one. Make it a little bit smaller. Put it over here. So I opened it up, and I came onto the internet, waited for it to load, and then I switched it sideways. And look at that. ScreenFlow does it for me. Just like, actually, let's see if we can go like frame by frame and see exactly how this works. So, come on. There we go. So it jumps immediately from that horizontal or vertical orientation to horizontal, and then swings it around. So it looks a little funky when you go real slow, but in real time, I think it looks pretty darn good, just like that. And then I can scroll up and down, and as we go a little bit faster through this, you can see when I went like this, I turned it sideways, and then I opened it up. So it sees all of the orientation shifts that you might use while using your iPhone. So if you're highlighting a certain app, your favorite app or something like that, and it sometimes is horizontal, sometimes vertical, ScreenFlow will adapt to those changes. One last thing that I think is pretty cool, and it's not foolproof, this idea, just because... Let me save this one real fast because we were having some issues. So iPhone test 2, and then close it. The last one I want to do, you'll see here in a second what I'm talking about, is this. Boom, look at that. Hey camera, hey light, hey confidence monitor, hey computer, hey other computer, hey Trevor. What's up, Trevor? Give us a wave. He's not paying attention. He can't see me. But the idea here is that I'm now using my camera as a live camera or a camera into ScreenFlow. So I'm going to stop this now, and I'll show you what I meant, what I was doing there. So now when I make this a little bit smaller, let's play through this. So look at that. I have like a live camera. This is a little tricky though, because it's not going to get rid of the frame of your camera. So what you're going to have to do is go in and crop it out. But if you're in a pinch and you don't have a camera, if you have, look, you got your selfie cam and all that kind of stuff. If you have your iPhone and you can plug it into your computer, wham bam, thank you ma'am, you got a beautiful, easy to use, croppable HD camera. And now that I've cropped it, you can see, hey, that's not so bad. You are going to get these weird things like every once in a while you saw right there, that yellow box around. But I assume there's probably an app out there somewhere that allows you to use a camera without an overlay, a graphic overlay like that. If there is, download that and boom, you have a cheap and easy camera. If you get like a little tripod, you can mount that up there. So those are the three things that I wanted to highlight for recording. How easy it is to just plug it in and go. The fact that it's going to orient itself with what you're doing within the app or within the device itself, and the fact that you could turn it into a makeshift camera if you want to. Let me just go back and double check our questions. Oh my, okay. Chat disconnected. That can't be good. Let's reboot that. Bina says thank you. You're welcome. Will I be able to use my Galaxy Note 8 and record my iPad or my iPad Pro? I don't understand why you would want to use your Galaxy Note to record your iPad. Doug, you're going to have to... ScreenFlow 2 answered there, and yes, you can't record the Galaxy. It's only iOS devices, Apple-made things. But the question you said, can you use your Galaxy Note and record to my iPad or my MacBook? Oh, I misunderstood your question, and the answer to that, Doug, is no. You will have to... You can record your iPad to your MacBook, but you cannot use the Galaxy Note. Sorry, I just misunderstood that. And then Purple Cat, your question, can you use your iPhone as a live camera feed? Yes, you can. I'm losing my internet. Hopefully it's not the live stream and just my computer specifically, but I think we should be good. All right, let's get back to it. Now let's go in and we're going to edit some of these. This one, specifically like the camera, you're not going to edit this any differently than you would a normal camera footage. There's nothing really special going on here, so I'm just going to close this one. We don't need to save it. This is one where I was showing you the change in orientation. Also, I mean, you can just do it as like a screen capture, same kind of idea. Maybe I come in here and I want to add a video action and I want to move it down to the bottom right corner. There you go. I can interact with that iPhone screen recording just the same way as anything else. Oh, there was one thing that I wanted to show you. Let's do iPhone 7 transparency. Let's get an image here, and this is a great way to find pieces of content that you need. Is this a transparency? Yes, it is. By the way, when you're editing with images, often you'll want to bring in an image, but you don't want the background. I'm not sure if you can really see here, but in this one, see how that background is checkered and seems to be different than the image itself? That's because it's transparent. What that means is if I pulled this in, there would be no square bounding box to it. I would just get the image of the iPhone. Let's try this one, for instance. Is that a transparency? No. This has a white background, so that's not going to work. Excuse me. One of these first ones. Oh, I guess is that one a transparency? No. But this one is. So I'm going to save this one. Save image as. I'm just going to save it to my desktop. And now I can go back into ScreenFlow, into my media library, and add a new file from my desktop, segmented control, open that. And you can see here already there's no backdrop. Let's delete my screen recording. Let's delete this and make this nice and big. And then we're going to pull this into my canvas. And you can see as I scroll in, when I make this a little bit bigger, it just goes nicely over the background. So there's no border to it. That's why I searched for transparency. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this below my iPhone recording. And we're going to just do, I don't want the part where it switches, so let's just cut it off here. And we'll make these the same size, same length. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to shrink it down. And, first of all, it looks like it has a drop shadow, so I'm going to get rid of that drop shadow. And then I'm going to mold this right on top. Boom, just like that. How does that look? It's possible I could make this a little bit better if I had a little more time, but I just want to show you. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to nest these clips. And that way I've turned this into one single clip that now shows my phone interacting on top of an iPhone frame. So it looks like it's very clear to my viewers what is going on. I am now recording, or not recording, I'm now showing my viewers, look, I'm doing all of this in an iPhone. If I wanted to, I could come back to my media library, bring that same iPhone clip again in, but this time go to where I switched it sideways, which was right here. Boom. And we'll delete that and come over to about here and delete that as well. I'm going to pull this same image in again, put it underneath, but this time I'm going to make it 100 or 90 degrees like this. Make it a lot bigger, and then give it the same treatment that I gave that other one. Make sure this guy fits nicely into the iPhone frame. And there you go. I mean, it doesn't look perfect. You can spend a little time getting a better image. This one's pretty blurry. There's a lot of them out there. And now I have my iPhone tilted at an angle, and I'm scrolling through the internet like that. So now we've got two. I can bring this over here. Let's nest these clips as well. And then I can just drag them over each other to create a quick little transition. And now we've got the phone like this and the phone like that. So recording an iOS device, you can find images of iPhones or iPads and overlay it on top. Make sure you get a transparency. That way you don't have any sort of border, and you can just float things on top. Like if I wanted to bring my screen recording back in here, we would see that the iPhone is just floating nicely on top of what's going on. I might even be able to come in here and give this a quick little drop shadow. And now back out on the timeline. It's got a little shadow floating on top of it. Looks pretty nice. So there you go. That's how you can kind of trick people into knowing immediately that they're looking at an iPod or an iPad or something when you're doing these kinds of recordings. Sorry. When I talk a lot, I need to drink water. Pretty normal. All right, let's close this. I'm not going to save it. And we're going to go back to this original. I got one more thing I really want to go over, and that is a very tricky aspect of doing these iOS recordings. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I am not the preeminent expert. This is something that is proven to be relatively tricky for me. It's just hard to do. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving screen recording actions, and that's this button right here. They're called touch callouts. If I come over and let's see if I remember how to do this. There we go. Oh yeah. We've got all of these. We've got the video tab, the audio tab, video motion, screen recording, callouts, annotations, text, and our media library. One thing we've never talked about is this, the touch callouts. And this is a whole different tricky situation. So let's move this over. Let's get everything over here on the right-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit. It's not going to quite work. There we go. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an area that I really want to add an animation to. And the first thing I want to do is I want to show that A being placed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a video action. I'm going to add a touch callout. And the first thing you'll see is this little gray dot. Doesn't do anything. So now what we need to do is figure out how to make this little guy follow the A to there to help people say, oh, I touched there and I moved my finger. So first of all, how many fingers did we use? 1, 2, 3? No, we just used 1. If you want to do 1, 2, or 3, you can change all of this. Those give you extra things like the spacing between them. Often things will happen where you like zoom in or something, and that's where you can do stuff like this. We're going to go down to 1. Callout has end state. What that means is that I start in one place and end in another place that has an end state. So I want that. Yes, it does have a end state. Animates values to end state. Yes. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let's slow down, because like I said, this stuff gets really tricky. So I'm going to move my touch callout down to the A. Perfect. But I need it to end over there. And I want it to end, let's see the timing here. 1, 2, boom, perfect, just like that. So let's make this as long as that action. That looks about right. Now what I want to do, I want to change the color. I want it to be green so it pops out on this. I think that looks a little bit better, right? Yeah, that looks good. And how big do I want it to be? I want it to be bigger than the letter because I got big fingers. And then do I want to give it an outline? Yeah, I kind of like the outline. I think it looks really good. It helps to pop it. So if we're back here, still got no movement, but now we have a customized little dot that shows me. And actually, you know what I want to do is I want to start it a little bit before, and I want to end it a little bit after. Whoops. I want to end it a little bit after. That way, I give people a second to see the fact, oh, my finger's there. If you start it right when it moves, people are like, whoa, what was that thing that popped up on the screen? But if you bring the indicator in before the movement happens, it allows your audience to be like, oh, okay, something's about to happen here. And then if you leave it there for a second, you can see, oh, not only did something happen, but it ended there. Okay. So now I'm good to go here. Opacity, let's bring it up just a little bit. Now, callout has an end state. And when I click that, you can see that it now brings a second piece. So let's go over to this end state. And let's say right here. That's where I want it to end. So now we've got this issue where, oh, this is going to be tricky because the whole screen zooms in a little bit. Whew! All right, I'm going to see if I can make this work. But we've got this issue where we've got these two green dots and they're just sitting there, and that doesn't do anything. Well, that's because we have this thing that says show start and end states. So what I'm having my animation do right now is show the beginning and the end simultaneously. I want to switch this to show interpolated state. Now watch what happens. Boom. It brings it over. Did you see that? Perfect. But I've realized that, oops, let's bring this back up. It's not doing exactly what I want it to do because it's starting too early. Yeah, you see that? So what I need to do is I need to actually move it to right there. And end it way earlier as well. Right there. So now we come back and we can see. There we go. And you can see it's not absolutely perfect. It's a little tricky to get things absolutely perfect. One thing you're going to want to keep in mind is that when you're doing things that are very precise like this, try and keep them as straight as possible because we don't have the technology in ScreenFlow to track the movements of the screen on your iOS devices. This is something that you have to do manually, and it can get real tricky. So the easier you make it at the beginning when you're recording, the easier it's going to be in the post-production. That's kind of like an editing mantra in general. I was just talking to Deborah Lee about that the other day. The person who's behind the scenes right now, making sure you guys can all see this. And there's this, classic, oh, we can take care of it in post. I know it wasn't perfect, but when I get to editing, I'll finish it all there. That just makes the editing so much more difficult. If you can spend a little bit of time, maybe retake it, maybe make it just that much better, everything is going to be so much easier when you're ready to go. That was a bit of a tangent, but you know what I mean. So there we go. And I think I want that end state to end a little bit lower. Let's try that again. There we go. And so I don't think I'm going to get that much more precise at the moment, but you can see now the idea of this can get a little tricky, but at least I'm showing you what's going on. And it gets even trickier when you start to think, what is interpolated state? What is the start and end state? Just remember that any action that you do with your finger is generally like, hey, start here, end here kind of thing. And so that's going to allow you to just show the interpolated states. Show start and end states. You can see the difference between the two. A touch call out with an end state, that means it's going from one to the other. If you don't have that end state, it's just going to be like I pressed and held my finger on the screen. I can animate values to the end state. I can change the size if I want. I can make this whole thing get bigger. Boom, if I want to do that. I can make it spaced if I have two. So like Actually, let's do this real fast. Let's close this. We're going to do another screen recording. And I'm going to show you something that is really common that I want to make sure that we go over is the ability to zoom in on something. So here's a picture, and I'm going to zoom in on the cutest little boy in the world. There he is right there. Let's try that again because I didn't do it perfectly. Oh, I didn't do it perfectly again. There we go. That's what I want. All right. Stop recording. So this weekend, we don't live very far from Lake Tahoe here. We're in Northern California, so I went with some friends up to Lake Tahoe, and we stayed in a cabin. So what I'm going to do here is grab this iOS device picture again, make that nice and big, put it underneath my iPhone, and make this smaller. Whoops, wrong button. I want to take on the iPhone. Does it have a drop shadow? Yes, it does. Let's get rid of that, and we'll line it up in here. Just makes it that much easier to really see what's going on. So let's grab both of these. Where did I get that perfect one? Ended right there. So we'll start here. Sorry guys, you're just watching me do a little bit of editing, but you know, that's what ScreenFlow is all about. So here we go. Scroll back and we'll scroll in here. Let's nest these clips real fast and make it a little bit smaller. So watch what happens here. I zoomed in to that point. Got it? It's very, very quick, very simple. It's us building a fire. We zoom in. There's my little buddy Simon, my son. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this nested clip. I'm going to go on my iPhone here, and I'm going to go to where it started. And I'm going to add a touch callout. But I want to show the interpolated state as well as the end state. I want to do a count of 2, and I want it to have an end state, and I want that value to animate because I want the spacing to get bigger. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so that's way too short. Let's get rid of the show start and end states, and let's drop this down. Let's find where that zoom ends, which is right there. Whoops, I accidentally dragged it all the way over. Right there. Perfect. Now we come in, and if we start here, there we go. But you know, it looks like that wasn't quite the angle that I wanted. You see what I mean? So I'm gonna rotate these like this because that's more of the angle that I wanted. So let's do a rotation here as well of about like 26 degrees, I think should be good. There we go. Let's change the color because it's hard to see. I like that, and it always looks pretty good with a outline. That looks pretty good. So here we go. Zoom in like that. That's how you use the end state, the spacing on 2 fingers. So there you go. iOS device recording using ScreenFlow, adding touch callouts, using it as a camera. It will follow the orientations of what you're doing. It's a really good and easy tool for recording. And then if you're up to it, adding some touch callouts is really tricky. I'm not going to try and hide that. It's hard to get it to look perfect, but it is better than just leaving your viewers hanging. And if you can do just a couple basic finger animations, it makes things a lot easier for people. I'm going to jump back in to my questions and see if I have any questions to pick up. I have to refresh because I lost all of my internet, but I think it's back in action. Make sure this is all muted. Sorry if you get a quick little bit of audio. What is going on? Whoa, what is going on? Whew. Out of control, everybody. Okay. Brandon Plumley Things I like about ScreenFlow is recording games and other uses, tips and tricks, and a lot more. Hell yeah, man. You might be buying ScreenFlow 7. It is awesome software. Brandon, I agree completely. You should. No questions on the Facebook side of things. YouTube. Doug, I'm going to be getting back to you. It looks like maybe they oh, that's great. Doc Tari, that's great. Because I do have sometimes issues when I say like transparency. Doc said search for .png when you're looking for transparent pictures. Yeah, that's really awesome. That's the best way to do it. So like if you wanted, let's do iPhone PNG. iPhone PNG. There we go. Now we're getting lots of good images. Look at that. That's much better than the one. That's a brilliant. Hey, look at this. Remember I told you that it's always going to be 100% charged and 9:41 a.m. when you record? It looks like someone took a screenshot of this, and that's what happened. So you can tell. If you ever watch like commercials and they have, this is a fun little thing, if they have like an iPhone screen, you'll notice that it'll say 9:41 a.m. at the top. It's just a quirk of iPhone software. Let's see if we can find any other ones. What does this one say? Oh, I don't even think you can see it. But, okay, here's a ton of different ones. So if you want to use something like this, go ahead, search PNG. That is a really good tip. And, yeah, Doug Ranger. So the whole idea about the show today is that you can record the screen of your iPhone. And so what I was doing was recording the screen when I had the camera app open. That's all I was doing. You can't install ScreenFlow on an iPhone. It can only be installed on a computer. And so that's what I was going there. You do have to have ScreenFlow, though. The only way I was able to record that was using ScreenFlow. So that's all I've got for today, everybody. If you have any questions, I'll leave. Yeah, William Vilberg, that's very true. 100% battery charge in the 941 means you can record segments and paste them together without the time changes causing problems. That's cool. Like if you're saying, and then I do this, and then the time changes to 3 hours later because it took you 3 hours to really figure out how to do that. You can trick your audience into realizing that you're actually good at what you're doing, which is a trick that I use all the time. All right. So I'm gonna shut down ScreenFlow here because that's all I had to show you guys today. Thank you very much for coming. Good to hear, Doug. I'm glad you got ScreenFlow. That's where all of this starts. But I'm gonna go. So before we leave, I just want to say we are changing the ScreenFlow show just a little bit. We're gonna do once every 2 weeks instead of once every week. I've got a lot going on here, and I've got enough time to dedicate for every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week. So that means no ScreenFlow Live show next week, but the week after that, yes, of course. Please send us topics that you want to cover. I've covered pretty much all of the basics of ScreenFlow. We haven't gone deep into everything, and we can do that if you'd like. But if there's something specific you want to see, be sure to send that to me, whether it's a comment on this. Shout out to Deborah Lee for sending me the links this afternoon from Randy F., also known as Doc Terry. Deborah Lee, thank you. I always thank Deborah Lee. She's awesome. But yeah, be sure to send us some thoughts on future shows that you want to see. And the next show will be October 18th, and I haven't fully decided what that show is going to be yet. But if you guys are subscribed to the email notifications or follow us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, you should be able to hear about that pretty soon. Just a reminder on how to find us again. Facebook/ScreenFlow, @ScreenFlow. Oh, I think you might be able to see my hands at the top of that image. That's funny. @ScreenFlow on Twitter and ScreenFlow Tube on YouTube. You just type in ScreenFlow Tube into Google. It should be one of the first things that pops up. So, thanks for showing up. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys, and I will see you all in 2 weeks on the 18th for a yet-to-be-decided ScreenFlow show. Thanks for coming. Talk to you guys soon.